7 senior army officers and 33 soldiers have defected and arrived in Turkey. Let's get more now from Anita McNaught, who's in Samandag near Turkey's border with Syria. So these are some of the big boys who've defected. Anita, how did that happen?
Well, there's actually bigger boys who've defected, but whose defections haven't yet been made public by the authorities as they struggle to get their families out of Syria. But what we have here today are, and they crossed yesterday, is 1 brigadier general, 2 colonels, 3 lieutenant colonels and 1 lieutenant, all who crossed across the land border into Turkey from Syria. Understand they're all from the Homs region. The brigadier general in charge of things, he was back in Homs in charge of the spare parts warehouse there. It may not sound that big a job, but when you think how crucial tanks have been to the Syrian army's operations against the resistance in Syria, it's not to them. So yes, slowly, incrementally, more senior figures from the Syrian military are moving across, defecting into Turkey. Of course, we had the enormously symbolic defection of the Air Force fighter pilot with his plane into Jordan a few days ago, followed by a few more fighter pilots who made an on-foot escape across the border there. As we know from talking to military defectors, and I interviewed one myself for Al Jazeera 2-3 days ago, it is an enormously problematic operation for them because, of course, they don't act in isolation. They know that if they leave and their families are not safe, that the regime will immediately go after their families, arrest them, interrogate them, or very much worse. Riyad al-Assad, the nominal head of the Free Syrian Army, is known to have lost many members of his own family who've been taken and disappeared without trace at the hands of the regime. So it's not a decision taken lightly. It's not easily done because the Syrian army tries to block access to the border. If they hear of imminent defections, they take action immediately. We know a lot of soldiers have been killed summarily as they tried to defect. Many of the gun battles around the borders with Turkey have been those between soldiers trying to leave the army and other soldiers in the army trying to stop them from leaving the army. The Free Syrian Army hasn't even been involved in these gunfights. So enormously difficult, but enormously symbolically important. One of the better ways, if you like, one of the more benign ways by which this revolution, this uprising against the government in Damascus could unfold is if finally a sufficient number of members of his military of a sufficiently high rank step away the army is doing so that the army can no longer function. That is one of the few less crisis-ridden, if you like, less catastrophic scenarios that have been painted. But so far not enough have left to achieve that, but more are leaving every day.
And you wonder if this NATO meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, is going to add to the crisis. Briefly, if you will, Anita, is this, do you think, Turkey's attempts to push NATO to getting involved?
I think Turkey wants NATO involved because it's very worried about taking the wrong step itself. I think one of the subtexts to this whole downing of the Turkish fighter plane is that there are people in Syria who probably wish it hadn't happened. There are certainly people in Turkey who wish it hadn't happened. You're not going to get that at an official level, but that's the reason why I think the language has been so moderate on both sides. There's a bit of finger pointing, but nothing's being thrown, if you like. But of course the whole situation on the border is so sensitive. Turkey anything without an international consensus behind it, and requesting consultation, which is all it has done with these NATO ambassadors taking place tomorrow in Brussels, is about as far as things may go. And you'll notice they haven't called for Chapter 5, which is an attack on one is an attack on us all. They've merely invoked Article 4, which is let's all talk about it and see what we need to do next. It's a moderate response, not at this stage an escalation.
Thank you very much for that, Anita McNaught.